The year was 2010. My mom needed something from Target, and I had $5 for some reason. I had recently inherited my uncle's collection of old Magic the Gathering cards, and was eagerly expanding my library of spells one booster pack at a time. While the newest set was Scars of Mirrodin, I had my eye on a pack of Zendikar. Perhaps it was my desire to collect cards from different sets, or maybe I had grown tired of playing my Carnifex Demon structure deck against my Horde Smelter Dragon structure deck. Either way, this pack, which I had not seen on the shelves until that day, was the one I chose to spend my hard-earned Abraham Lincoln on. I thumbed through the cards slowly at the Target snack bar as my mom rang up her groceries, the smell of slushies nauseatingly entangled with that of popcorn and hot dogs. As I looked at the mana cost of each card, then its power, then its toughness, then its text, and finally its art. Now, I didn't know the rare was in the back of the pack at the time, and so each card pulled from the face of the next sent a little bit of a tingle from my fingers to my brain as I thought about which of my tens of unsleeved decks it would be best fit into. And then, uncommon, 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 and I got to my rare. And it was a land. Pay one life. Pay one life. Nearly $5 if you include tax. Pay one life just to get a forest or an island. Why, I thought, would you want to do that when you can just play a forest or an island? That doesn't cost any life. I thought there must be some mistake. Why would this be a rare? It was a land. Now, perhaps at this age I would have been more enthused by a Hellkite Charger or a Lorthos the Tidemaker. Just a big guy to top out the curve of a deck featuring the most egregious misuse of Tron lands of all time. But I'm older now. I've got a couple PPTQ wins under my belt, I've smelled the inside of more than a few local game stores, and I want to talk about fetch lands. But I don't really want to talk about fetch lands. I want to talk about teachable moments in game design, and how one of the most important hallmarks of a good game is the depth it presents, and how that's expressed in the ways a game chooses to teach you its mechanics. And in the case of truly great games, how they let you teach the mechanics to yourself. This is Pyromantic Pilgrim from Dominaria. It was featured not in the main set, but in an accompanying Planeswalker deck. A supplementary product intended to teach new players and give casual players a fun, non-tournament viable deck featuring a classic character. Notice how this card only has one word of rules text. It's a 3-mana 3/1 human wizard, yes, but the text box just says haste. One word that a player with a few games under their belt would need to read in order to fully understand what the card does. But notice what follows that one word. An explanation of haste as a keyword ability. What it does. Magic the Gathering is a complicated game. The most complicated, some have said. It has a lot of moving parts, and each corner case can't be painstakingly explained in a rulebook. Both because it wouldn't fit, and because, well, not everybody reads the rulebook. Some people learn that way. Some people are taught by a friend or older sibling, and some people want to learn by themselves but don't have the time or the patience to tango with a rulebook. Those people end up playing red deck wins. Try as you might as a designer to funnel players toward a specific way of learning to play your game, you're swimming against a powerful current, and it's always better to offer different teaching mechanisms than to let people with differing learning styles miss out on your game and all it has to offer. That's where this innocuous 2 lines of reminder text come into play. This creature can attack and tap as soon as it comes under your control. This text is, on the face of it, helpful for some theoretical player who grasps most of the rules but doesn't know what haste does. But it's useful more broadly in what we'll call its negative space. Not what it says outright, but what it implies. That other creatures can't do that. Sure, if you read the rules before playing and consulted with them as you slung spells for the first time, you would know about summoning sickness. But if you didn't, or if you forgot, this reminder text teaches you, or, fittingly, reminds you. But it does something more interesting. People's brains like making connections, and they like feeling accomplishments. Games use those qualities to great effect, but creating teaching moments in your games allow these processes to cause your player to form meaningful connections to your game. If you just tell your player flatly about summoning sickness, they might remember it. It'll just be another rule they learned. But if they teach themselves by reading into the implications that texts like this set forth, they will not only learn the rule, but they will have taught themselves the rule. This is beneficial in two ways. Firstly, the player is more likely to remember the rule because it's information they've earned by exercising their critical thinking skills, rather than information handed to them. Secondly, without even playing a game of Magic, they've just formed a sort of bond with the game. This isn't just a set of rules that can create play experiences, this is a mode of expression, a set of parameters that multiply in complexity within themselves and reward me for using my critical thinking skills. This realization isn't conscious, but it is meaningful. Your player has not just learned from your game, but they have used your game to teach themselves. But back to good old Misty Rainforest. This card, and the 9 other cards it shares most of its text with, colloquially known as the fetch lands, are some of what I believe to be some of Magic's best teaching tools, at least as it relates from transitioning from casual to enfranchised player. See, with just the effect of a fetch land, and either a more experienced player or the internet there to teach you, you have a series of incredibly important lessons that will carry you into becoming a more competent player by gaining game knowledge, independent of what rules state or what independent cards do. Let's talk about all the ways I was wrong to shove that card in a box and disregard it for like 4 years. Pay 1 life. That seems precious to new players. Life is how you tell if you're winning, right? But a well-versed player will know that life is a resource. Some are even so all in on this argument as to repeat the slogan, "The only life point that matters is the last one." While that may be a bit of an exaggeration, there is some truth to the Magic Arena loading screen tip, winning at 1 life counts the same as winning at 20. Exchanging resources is a fundamental but complex facet of strategy games. You eventually realize that while your opponent's end goal is typically to reduce your life to 0, other concepts like card advantage, board state, mana advantage, and tempo are the way to get there. Fetch lands teach you this lesson when you're ready by allowing you to look into the possibility of taking life, a resource that the game hands you 20 of at the start of the game, and leveraging that to ensure you have the color of mana you need to cast your spells consistently. Search your library. While arguably the least relevant of the 3 big lessons fetch lands teach, it's still important. Fetch lands out of your deck. When the game goes long and you're staring down at a board full of lands needing spells to cast to affect the flow of a game, 3 fetches earlier in the game is 3 lands that aren't in your deck for you to draw when you don't want to see them. It's a few percentage points, but thinning matters. I say all this not to stress too finely the importance of these percentage points, but to explain how understanding the way probability affects gameplay fits into the learning moment's key to make a good deck builder. Why play only 60 cards when I'm allowed as many as I want? Why play 4 copies of cards when I can play a bunch of different cards and keep my opponent guessing? Better players than myself have answered this question more succinctly, but Misty Rainforest gives players the opportunity to ask them in the first place. Forest or island? To my 11-year-old self, that just meant a basic forest or a basic island. Or I guess the weird snowy ones in my uncle's collection that I couldn't figure out why they were special. And that's an intuitive way to understand it. Those cards are named Forest and Island. But as seasoned Modern players will be quick to point out, those aren't all you can fetch. Some dual lands that can tap for more than 1 different color, typically with a drawback, have basic land types. Canyon Slough, for instance, not only taps for red or black, but is in fact a swamp and a mountain. Compare to Blackcleave Cliffs, which does tap for those 2 colors, but has neither subtype. For Modern players, however, this is most important when considering Shocklands. These tap for 2 different colors and possess the basic land types of the colors they provide. Shown here is Stomping Ground. Now, 10 fetches and 10 shocks exist. Astute viewers will note that this makes it so any fetch can immediately make any color of mana untapped by simply fetching a shock land that matches one of the fetch's colors and also taps for the color you want. In fact, in a well-constructed 3-color deck, if any of your fetch lands can grab any of your shock lands, setting you up for future turns with consistent mana is easy. I say all this to reach the point. Learning about corner cases is one of the most fun parts of becoming a better Magic player. The difference between Hexproof and Shroud, what protection does and doesn't stop. All these things strengthen your abilities as a Magic player, and learning the function of basic land types is a lesson, typically taught by asking the innocent question, why are fetch lands even good? This one was a little rambly. I know the last video was really negative, but I love Magic. I love game design, and I really want to talk about it. So here you go. I truly do believe most of my video essays will be more akin to this one, as long as I avoid talking about the secondary market or the primary market. Either way, expect another one of these soonish, and when Dominaria United gets fully spoiled, expect a guide for that limited format. Either way, like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you're feeling. What was a teachable moment for you in Magic the Gathering? And what type of content do you want to see more of on this channel? Limited guides, video essays? Thank you for watching, genuinely, and I hope you have an excellent day.